Luka Doncic watching the end of Game 3 from the bench, fouled out. It's where we're going to start. He was powerless. He was defeated. Tim Cowlishaw was there with the analysis. McDavid tonight, another superstar in a must-win. What McDavid can learn from Luka for tonight's Game 3. Let's go around the horn.
Make your threes. That's what you can learn.
Don't foul out.
Man, you can't
Be on the
foul
ice
out
at the most
hockey.
crucial time. It may not go well.
We couldn't play physical, so I don't know. I don't want to say nothing, but you know, 6 foul in the NBA Finals. Where basically I'm like this. Come on, man. Better than that.
So Boston was wobbling. Could Dallas pull off the comeback? Maybe give us a series. And then Doncic fouls number 5 and number 6 on back-to-back defensive possessions. He's getting killed for those fouls. He's getting ethered for those fouls, disqualifying him from a must-win finals game. Boston's up 3-0. We'll get to them in a second. First, Tim Cowlishaw around the horn to you. You were there. Is this loss all on Luka?
This is a big loss, and I'm going to save a small space over here for Jason Kidd and the inexplicable 19 minutes, 0 points for Tim Hardaway. We don't know what's going on with that in this series, especially as much as he played in the second half. But if you're looking at the bigger picture, Luka starting the fourth quarter with 2 fouls and fouling out before the 4-minute mark. A player with any awareness cannot do that. You can't, once you get to 4, you have to start watching what kind of position you're putting yourself in. It's not as if he's a lockdown defender and he has to continue with that. So really, it was really just his frustration at times gets the best of him. And it's the worst part about him as an NBA player. Obviously, a great superstar player, but he gets the refs in his head. And when he doesn't get the call he wants at one end, he makes a stupid foul at the other. And he did it at the worst time in a game where you look at it now and like the series is over. That's a game if the Mavericks win.
I blew it. I lost my mind for a few minutes in back-to-back possessions. He's not saying that.
When he plays well,
Saying, I blew it. I lost my mind for a few minutes in back-to-back possessions. He's not saying that.
when he plays well, he almost always takes the blame for the losses, like he did in Boston. When he played great, he blamed himself for the turnovers. But when he does something really poor like that, he needs to learn that's really when he needs to be.
All right, Courtney Cronin. Is last night's loss on Luka?
Absolutely. What could have possessed him to attempt a charge in transition when he already had 5 fouls? It's a situational lack of awareness that is a part of why his defense has been so shameless in this postseason. There were 5 drives he defended last night. He got blown by on all 5 of them, and that's been a common theme against the Celtics this series. He's been blown by on 68% of these drives. That's the highest blow-by percentage allowed by a single defender in a playoff series in the last 10 years. You know who's number 2 on that list? Luka against the Clippers in the first round. Number 3 on that list, Luka against Oklahoma City in the Western Conference semifinals.
Here we go.
His defense is a serious issue. It's more than just a liability because he's been able at points to kind of mask it with these incredible offensive performances. It has been exposed and then some in the NBA Finals.
Justin Tinsley, it's a yes or no question. Is last night's loss on Luka Doncic?
Absolutely. Absolutely, Tony, because, you know, we're in the finals, and yes, your role players have to show up, your coaches have to show up, but in the NBA Finals, you need your superstars to be superstars, man. And yes, I get it, Luka is hurt, but you still can't even use that as an excuse because he's still leading the series in points and rebounds. And Courtney just quoted his blow-by percentages. If those were field goal percentages, they're not looking at an 0-3 deficit right now, but we're looking at some all-time bad defense at the worst possible time. Like I'm going to pose this to the group. I can never remember a superstar of this caliber in the finals getting hunted on defense like this. So he's getting exposed on defense. On offense, in Game 3, the Celtics switched 79% of the time on screens when he was the main ball handler. So Luka has to look at himself because he is the reason that they lost that game.
And now to Frank Isola. History was brought up by Tinsley. He can't remember a time a player of this caliber was this defensive a liability like that, but also fouled out of a finals game. Can you remember somebody fouling out with that much time left in the game?
Yeah. I know at home, you think Michael Jordan's fouling out in Chicago, LeBron James in Cleveland, Miami, Cleveland, L.A. I don't see that at all. But, you know,
what are you saying? What are you saying? That the refs would not have fouled out those guys there, and you thought Doncic has beef?
I think he has. The sixth foul to me was a little questionable, but I will say this. To me, thus far, unless things change, the defining moment for Luka Doncic is going to be picking up that sixth foul 26 seconds after picking up his fifth. You didn't play defense all night. Now in this moment, you're deciding to play defense, and you fall on the floor, you curse at your bench, then you're complaining to the referees. It needs to be better. But, and Justin said he's injured. There have been guys throughout the playoffs that are injured. They don't dress. This guy's getting an injection in his chest, his knees bother him, his ankle. I think he's a little irritated because we've seen Luka complain all throughout his career. This was at a different level. And another thing, they were a +9 when he played. So he wasn't good and needs to be better, but he was a +9.
Oh, okay. Points for the +9. We recognize that. He was having a great game until the wheels fell off in the fourth quarter. But you've been very critical of him and the way he has complains to referees and just gesticulates and gets beat on defense before. You didn't think that was the issue last night, Frank?
No. I do think it was an issue. I'm just telling you, I think the injuries factored into it. And 2 years ago, I said this about him, and people from Dallas were killing me that I said he complains too much. You have to admit, we've all seen him. Last night was excessive. It was every single play. He can kill the referees all he wants. The referees had about 20 opportunities where they could have given him a technical and then a second technical, and he could have been in the locker room in the third quarter.
You're shaking your head no.
I mean, if this was a regular season game and they don't let him play, he's probably teed up multiple times and kicked out of there. Where is Luka the closer that we saw in Game 2 against the Minnesota Timberwolves and being able to carry that sort of killer mindset into the final frame when his team has a 1-point lead at halftime and then he's shooting 1 for 7 from three, scored 8 points in the fourth quarter combined throughout this series. When his team needs him to be the superstar in that moment, he's on the bench. That's how I feel when I watch Isola go to Showdown and come win the show, and I'm sitting here helpless. That's kind of reminiscent of what Luka looked like last night.
Back in.
You know, I think it's worth noting that Luka's performances on the road are very different. You didn't see him whining much in Boston. He comes home where the owner of the last 20 years, now a minority owner, is standing next to the bench, yelling at the refs the whole game, telling his guys to put the replays up, and Luka falls into that Cuban trap, and I think that's a real thing.
Frank Isola
doesn't do it on the road.
Boston is doing what Minnesota didn't do. They seek out Luka and they seek out Kyrie defensively. They've always played that way. So give Joe Mazzulla, who a year ago, remember, was not the coach of this team, he's done a really good job exploiting those.
So there was that slight wobble they had in the fourth quarter, but they persevered through it. And this is a team now standing on the top shelf of company that is the likes of which we see once every 10 years. Their scoring margin, their 10-game winning streak in the postseason. Specifically last night, Frank, what jumped out at you to the Celtics team?
Definitely this third quarter, and it ended right there with that emphatic dunk with Jaylen Brown. They scored 35. In fact, they outscored Dallas 35-19. To me, that completely changed the game. And you think about this team, 10 straight playoff wins. It's hard to win one playoff game. They've won 10 in a row. If you go back to last year against Miami, they have 9 straight playoff wins. This team is completely locked in. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown combining for 61 points. And what they've become, and they needed to do this, it's not just about scoring. They become much better playmakers. We're watching the maturation of 2 terrific players. That's why let's go back and find everyone who said they needed to break those 2 guys up last year after Miami. Are you kidding me? These guys have played so many games. All they ever do is win, and now they're 1 win away from a tie.
Tim Calishow, what last night jumped out at you most for the Celtics team?
I'm going to go back even to the first quarter. It's 22-9 Dallas after 5 minutes. The crowd is going crazy. Tatum and Brown made sure they got things under control. By the end of the first quarter, it's 31-30. That crowd was quiet the rest of the night. I mean, they realized then there's really no chance Dallas has against them.
Courtney Cronin?
Well, I'm going to go to the point where they're down by 13, and they kept shooting the three ball. We know how prolific this team is. Everybody from their stars all the way to Xavier Tillman, who attempts and makes his first three coming off the bench. They're 70-8 this year when they're shooting at least 32% from deep. If they continue that on Friday night, it's a sweep.
And Justin Tinsley.
Yeah, I think last night was a perfect encapsulation of how great this team is. Yes, the stars. Tatum took over in the first half, Brown in the second half. But when you look at somebody like Drew Holiday and his defense, he doesn't have a turnover in the entire series yet, Tony. You look at Xavier Tillman's professionalism. I look at Derek White just being like a Swiss Army knife, and Hauser just hitting big shots. Honestly, last night showed that the worst opponent for Boston is Boston. That's how good they are. Dallas doesn't matter at this point. As long as Boston doesn't beat themselves, they'll be fine.
Worst opponent for Tim Kalishaw is Tim Kalishaw, it appears like. Cronin 16, Tinsley 15, I saw 11, Kalishaw 10. Take a break, buy yourself next.
And important trash talk here.
Welcome back to Around the Horn, coming to you from the Heineken River Deck at Pier 17.
Panthers-Oilers Game 3 tonight, another must. Florida's flight to Edmonton delayed by storms. Whether you think getting in at 8 local last night, playing 6 local today is something that could throw them off. Barkov, a good to go for Florida as well after that hit from Draisaitl. And for Edmonton, could home ice throw them on? They're down 0-2. Tim, what can Edmonton do tonight to change things and maybe give us a series in this final?
Oh, I think we could still have a series. Edmonton was down to Dallas 2-1, and Dallas was the best road team in the league, and they found a way to win 3 in a row, including 2 at home. They found a way to get the power play going against Dallas. I think first home finals game in Edmonton in 18 years, first one ever in that building. That's going to be a revved up crowd. Draisaitl and McDavid, they'll get them going.
Cronin?
They obviously need more from Connor McDavid, who leads the NHL in scoring, who has no goals in the Stanley Cup final. But how about the actual shot placement? So we already saw an adjustment from them Game 1 to Game 2. 0 shots registered at the top third of the goal in Game 1, 7 in Game 2. If they can continue to put the puck up high, that is Sergei Bobrovsky's weakness. He's allowed 19 goals to the top third of the net this season, most in the end.
Listen to Cronin. Shot placement is key. All right. So Kalishaw thinks just getting home will right the Oilers. Cronin thinks shot placement. Tinsley, how about you?
Well, one thing that might help Edmonton is if they score a 5-on-5 goal, which they haven't done since Game 5 of the Western Conference Finals. But honestly, this all boils down to Connor McDavid. He's been the best player on the planet for at least as long as I've been doing this show. And this is the most important game of his career. Because you go down 0-3. Just ask the Dallas Mavericks. You go down 0-3, this series is over. So
last night was the most important game for Luka Doncic, and what happened there?
Yeah.
Now McDavid, and it's key, again, Barkov is good to go for Florida. He's a guy, who could defend as well as anybody from the forward position. I sold it to you.
Yeah, since we're giving injury updates, there's a chance that Evander Kane might not be available for the Oilers. So, you're talking about Bobrovsky and goal. They've won 5 straight games and 5 straight playoff games, and they haven't given up more than 2 goals in any of those 5 games. I just don't see it. Leon Draisaitl, who should be dominating, doesn't have a point. Meanwhile, Evan Rodriguez, my favorite hockey name, he's got 3 goals already in the series. So Draisaitl, forget just McDavid, Draisaitl's got to
So you've got Florida tonight, Frank? It sounds like you're leaning in that direction. Tins, you're going to go with Edmonton or Florida?
Edmonton, yes.
And Cronin?
Edmonton.
Yeah, that placement. Got to go high. And Kalishaw, you got Edmonton as well.
In between the pipes.
We'll move on. How would the USMNT respond after that 5-1 drubbing to Colombia over the weekend? Maybe you winced when you saw they were playing Brazil. 1-1 draw. A huge bounce-back performance. Kind of put the Colombia game back to bed, keeper Matt Turner said. Pulisic goal, nearly more. Musa, crossbar 2. Not a huge step, but a little step, Greg Berhalter, coach said. Frank, huge step, little step, or are you still focused on the Colombia loss?
Oh, I think that's a huge step, especially against a talented team like Brazil. You just showed the Pulisic goal, terrific free kick goal to tie it up. I thought Matt Turner in goal was great. You had Tim Ream center back, and how about Joe Scally from Long Island playing right back, isolated on Vinicius Jr., who plays for Real Madrid. That's like being isolated on prime Kobe Bryant, and he was able to essentially shut him down. That was very, very impressive.
There was a homer pick in there for the Long Island guy, but we'll allow it. Justin Tinsley, how about you?
I'm looking at the glass half full. If you lose 5-1 to Colombia and then you tie Brazil, that's essentially a win. So if you're heading into Copas and your team USA, which we are, you got to feel good.
A tie is
about
essentially a
holding Brazil
win.
to a tie.
Remind me when we get to Showdown to use that one on Tinsley. Cronin, how about you?
I don't know. It's a friendly. I'm not going to put that much stock into it, but it is nice to see the draw after they got blown out the other night. Matt Turner and his 11 saves, great, but I'm not going cart before the horse here until they get to Copa America.
Kalashaw.
Such a hater.
I think it's a significant move forward. A reportedly pro-Brazil crowd right there in the Citrus Bowl. It's like playing them on the road. You get
That was true with Colombia as well. We've seen this before, and we're seeing it again. We'll move on. Talk about crowds. How about the city of Boston last night, all right? Brady Patriots retirement night with Jay-Z as an opener, Kenny Chesney, and Stars and Stories. They were doing that opposite the Celtics finals game, which, hello, by the way, got a great crowd at the Garden to watch that. Opposite a Red Sox game, which had 33,000 plus against the Phillies. Courtney, about the retirement in the middle of June, what do you buy with yourself for the Brady moment last night?
This night was about Tom Brady, but you cannot look past that ovation that Bill Belichick got. A 2-minute standing, clapping, cheering from the fans in attendance, especially the way that he ended his tenure with the New England Patriots, losing his job, the way that he was portrayed in that Dynasty series. For Tom Brady to give his coach his flowers and say it wasn't about me, it wasn't about you, it was about us. It was a nice moment to see all of that culminate together.
Look, it was a beautiful moment for Tom Brady, the GOAT. But you know I'm a hip hop head. Jay-Z, I wanted a concert from you all last year for Hip Hop 50. You mean to tell me you go to Tom Brady's event? Like, come on, man. I want to go to your concert too.
You could have paid the $36 to get in to Gillette last night. Frank Isola, how about you?
Yeah, I'm assuming Nikki Glazer and Jeff Ross didn't perform last night. I don't get it. Why is it on this night? You knew the NBA Finals were going to be on this night as well, and for the longest time, it looked like the Celtics were favored. It makes no sense. Why would you do that to the Celtics? Maybe because now Boston's back to being a basketball town, not a football town.
Tim Kalashaw, right?
Ooh.
I don't get the June thing. I know the June 12th, six rings, 12 is his jersey. That's cute, but why do you have to have this? When the Celtics are in the finals, the Red Sox are playing the Phillies. There's too many things going on. You want a 3 hour?
Oh, so that jumped out to you as well. It's incredible, though. They filled out stadiums. You called it a bad. Boston, you know what? Get on your towns, guys. Get up to Boston's level, because the Garden nearly sold out just to watch a game on a TV, so no game there. Gillette, the crowd they had there, not to watch a game. Fenway Park had a game. I mean, come on. I do like the roast. This was the anti-roast. This was a vegan roast at Gillette. The Kalashaw's done. Tinsley's done. Cronin Isola. Oh, the rivalry continues in Showdown next.
Yeah, they get to watch us in Showdown.
Chestnut versus Kobayashi on Netflix on Labor Day. For Kobayashi, this is a comeback for him as he recovers from stomach issues from, I don't know what could possibly have caused stomach issues for him. For Chestnut, this ends the week's dispute with Nathan's. Now we see what was up. Courtney, does Chestnut Kobayashi on Labor Day eat Nathan's 4th of July's lunch?
Having the Nathan's hot dog eating contest without Joey Chestnut is like having Easter without the Easter Bunny. Nathan's, Joey Chestnut need to come to an agreement, or a lot of people are going to have a lot of time on their hands on July 4th.
That was some incredible word salad from you, Tony. You'll be there in Coney Island, but guess what? Everyone else is waiting for Labor Day. This was marketing genius by the Joey Chestnut people. He can't compete on July 4th, but he'll be there Memorial Day. Netflix, everyone will be tuning in. Except for me.
I think you just got the
I
date
watched
wrong.
football that
You
day.
said Memorial. It's Labor Day. Oh, boy, Frank. You know how
Labor
I feel
Day.
about Coney Island. My mom's from Coney Island. This is our family's neighborhood. We go 8 times a year. We go to Nathan's every year.
said
I
you'd be
feel
there.
like they dropped the dog with this one, and they better pick it up off the ground. I'll give them a 5-second rule.
That's
We'll
a
move
mute.
on. Oh, my favorite story in the show. Italian high jumper Gianmarco Tamberi. Let's go. Sound full. I'll translate for you. Here we go.
Mamma mia!
Mamma mia! Yes! You know what that means. Okay. But, che cosa? Here, look at this. All right, nobody knows what he's doing in celebration. They thought he hurt his foot. There were springs in his shoes. Tamberi, maybe you remember him from last Olympics, tying for gold, or the Celebrity All-Star game at the NBA, or for the half beard, now springs in his shoes. Frankie, Paisan, what's the best part?
I'll tell you what, we found an Italian skinnier than you, if you can believe it. I love the Mamma Mia. Is there anything more beautiful than that high jump? But when the springs came out, you need another Italian. You need a Paulie Walnuts to say, oh, what is that?
Courtney, what's the best part here?
This is like a Giuseppe Verdi opera where the female
Very
lead gets up, keels over, looks like she's going to die, does it 3 or 4 more times.
Very
And the
nice.
drama here, I had absolutely no clue what was going on. When he goes down, I thought he's injured. He pulls out springs. I didn't know you were allowed to have springs in your shoe.
No.
I also don't really know what that half beard thing is, but I think you should rock it sometime.
Half beard he's been doing for 15 years. He shaves it when he wins the medal, which he did on his home turf for the Euros. It was amazing. How about, look at you, Courtney. He's going to go to Paulie Walnuts, Isola. But
Italy
we're
in the
also
Euros.
Giuseppe Verdi, of course. Take the FaceTime, Courtney.
The NFL has fined and docked the Atlanta Falcons a draft pick for tampering. They apparently tampered with several free agents during this past free agency, notably Kirk Cousins. It may sound serious, but all the Falcons were docked was a 5th-round pick, which is not going to incentivize teams to change anything from the way that they're doing business right now. If you want to change it, make sure that's a day 1 or day 2 pick that you're taking away.
Thank you, Courtney Cronin. Just to put a button on it. It's not the size of the Mia in your mama. It's the size of the mama in your Mia.
Mamma mia!
There we go.